So you're brand new, a new player to Dungeons & Dragons, an exciting time. And the natural question to ask as you set forth for adventure and glory, treasure, exploration, what is the best class for a new player to play? Now, this is an interesting question because Dungeons & Dragons, being a role-playing game, means the answer is not quite as simple. It's not quite as simple in that all of the classes are not only equally viable and unique, but each class is going to mesh radically different based on our player personality, based on how we interface and evolve with the game. I love playing monks in D&D. One of my best friends, an amazing dungeon master, when he plays a monk, it's the same class, but just radically different in how we approach the class, not only tactically, but also from a role-playing method. So it's not as easy, say, as a digital to be able to look and say, well, what are the stats? What are the abilities? Crunch the numbers, look at the meta, and one class is going to be far superior compared to the others. It's not quite as easy as that. So the easy question would be, look through the bios of the characters. Look through the descriptions for each of the classes. Maybe look at the abilities, look at the stats. See what captures your imagination. And start with that. Now, on the opposite side, if D&D is very overwhelming, there are a lot of different rules and a lot of different interfacing with the various adventures. Maybe the dungeon master is new. Maybe you're new as a player and a DM. When we look at it and explore it that way, if I had to make a recommendation for new players, I would say start with playing a fighter. Not because the fighter is easy to play. I mean, it's very sophisticated to play a fighter, and there's a lot in the early adventures where you have a lot of responsibility. You're the front line. You're the tank. You are, whether it's through brawn, brain, finesse, you're expected to engage the monsters. The party is looking at you. So it's not this idea that playing a fighter is easy, so just give it to a new player. It's very complex. But the reason why I say play a fighter is that more so than the other classes during encounters, because you can die at any moment in D&D. I mean, you can. This is life and death, and you make decisions, and you play your character how you want to play them. But I would say, as a dungeon master, as a DM, 80-90% of character death happens in combat when you're facing monsters. I mean, you could get hit with a trap, you could offend the wrong nobleman, a lot of different things can happen. But understanding how combat works, how hit points work, how armor class works, how initiative works, how the different weapon profiles and ranges, the interaction of spells, all those numbers, they're expressed through the fighter. The fighter lives and dies through them. All classes do, but more so than the other classes. So by playing a fighter, that is what I recommend, because yes, you're taking on some awesome responsibility as a new player, but it's going to lay out the mechanics that you can begin to see. And this does two things. First, it gives you intimate knowledge of how the game works. So later, as you play other character classes, and you are going to make your way through playing all of the character classes, by having that background and understanding, you will realize the vulnerabilities of all the character classes and then come up with role-playing ways to augment them or not have that happen. So from that perspective, there is a duality. There is no play this class first, this is the easiest, this is the best class for new players. Yet at the same time, if I was forced, if you asked me as the DM, pick a class or what do you recommend? I would recommend playing a fighter.